Greetings dear friends, Dragon here once again. If it's your first time stumbling onto the channel, then do please consider clicking that red button and subscribing if you like what I do. Now, having been born and raised and still living in Scotland, the connection between Scotland and France has always been strong and is particularly strong in this house. I'm a huge fan of the collaborations that I get to do with the wonderful Spectrum Films. So recently I was approached to do a review of a Studio Canal picture, which I jumped at the chance to do so, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a very quick review of their upcoming release of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal, a movie that I have not seen since I was a teenager, really. It's a movie that came out amid a run of Schwarzenegger movies in the late 80s. He did Commando in 1985, Raw Deal came out in 86, and then 87 he did The Running Man and Predator. And Raw Deal, no pun intended, kind of gets a raw deal. It's the one that often gets overlooked. It's one that I haven't revisited since seeing it in the old VHS days. So I was really excited to kind of see what Studio Canal had done for the movie and see what they put together for their release. So it's due out on October the 24th, coming in a variety of different formats. So we're getting a standalone Blu-ray release, which is the one that I'm looking at today. Also comes out in 4K, and then I believe there's also a Zavvi exclusive steelbook release of the movie as well. Cover art on all three is by the wonderful Flore Macquin, who I think has done quite extensive work for the Cannes Film Festival and put together a really quite minimalistic, pretty stark image that I really like. So the cover's great, and on the disc itself we get a brand new 4K restoration by Studio Canal themselves, which looks incredible. The last time I saw this movie was on VHS, I think panned and scanned, so I only remember seeing a 4:3 version of this before. So for me, this was kind of like watching the movie for the first time, and the quality of the restoration is amazing. I haven't seen the 4K disc, but just looking at the regular Blu-ray release, which is the one that I was sent, it looks absolutely incredible. Really, for me, this was kind of like watching the movie for the first time all over again. I didn't remember that much about it. And for those that maybe haven't seen the movie or coming to it for the first time, it was directed by John Irvin in 1986. DP was Alex Thompson, who'd worked on some pretty incredible movies. Actually, Alex Thompson was an amazing director of photography. He did Excalibur, he did Legend with Ridley Scott, The Wonderful Labyrinth with David Bowie, Alien 3 for David Fincher, then worked with Schwarzenegger's 80s rival Stallone on Cliffhanger for Renny Harlin. And the quality of his cinematography throughout the film, really good. The premise of the film is quite simple. We have a disgraced FBI agent played by Schwarzenegger. He's playing a character called Mark Kaminsky, who has been kicked out of the FBI due to excessive brutality and is now kind of working in a small town as a sort of small town sheriff. The son of one of his former FBI colleagues is killed whilst protecting an informant who's going to be going up against the Chicago mob. And so this FBI agent decides to go off the book and recruit the disgraced Schwarzenegger to come back in and go undercover in Chicago, working his way to the mob to try and basically take down the head of the mob, who is in this case played by Sam Wanamaker, playing Luigi Petrovita. Along the way he meets and flirts with the gangster's Moll Monique, played by Catherine Howell, and butts toes with the mobster's current main enforcer, played by Robert Davi, playing Max. And all around, really, essentially just a pretty solid slice of 80s action for me. Anyway, I still really enjoyed the movie. It was not quite what I remembered in terms of, I think the only sequence I really did remember in my mind was the last act of the film, when Schwarzenegger was kind of tooling up and kind of going off to kind of gun his way to the top to try and take out the boss. That's about all I'll say on the plot. But for me, it held up pretty well. I think the quality of the restoration, like I say, was pretty jaw-dropping. It looks absolutely incredible. And then the package that they put together for the disc is a bit confusing, and we'll get into that next. There's a couple of main special features on the release. So we get two little featurettes that have been created for the disc. One is called The Man Who Raised Hollywood, which is about 17 minutes long and kind of looks at Schwarzenegger's career as a whole. A couple of quite interesting interviewees in it. We get to see Arthur Allen Siedelman, the director of Hercules in New York, so Arnold's first movie director. We worked with him in 1970. And we also get Peter Hyams, and both of them speak kind of really positively about Arnold, what it was like working alongside him. That's intercut with the assistant director from Red Sonja and a French journalist and a French screenwriter who kind of speak about their own kind of particular preference for Arnold's movies. I was quite tickled by the fact that the French contributors all call him Schwartzy, which I'd never heard before, and I'm going to start doing that from here on out. So for Schwartzy's maybe not his best known movie. The other special feature that's on here that was kind of confusing to me, it's called Raw Deal, a generic action film, which is a strange title to give to a special feature that you put on your release. Runs for about 9 minutes long and is hosted by Dave Saunders, who wrote the book Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Movies. So I suspect Dave is far better informed than I am on Schwarzenegger's movie career. I've only ever come to these things as a fan, but clearly he is not a fan of Raw Deal, which made it quite a weird and pretty ballsy special feature to put onto the release. It's kind of 9 minutes of someone kind of dissing the movie, which is a bit weird. It's a bit strange to kind of like get a special feature on a film and then it kind of start picking apart the reasons why that film isn't that great. And for me, it's nothing that I saw watching the movie. Yeah, it's nowhere near as good a movie as Predator. I'd argue that it's maybe as entertaining a movie as Commando, though a different sort of entertaining. There's a awful lot less comedy value to be had here. It's a bit more of a serious movie than we normally saw from Schwarzenegger. And it was kind of strange kind of seeing Dave sort of pick apart the movie, particularly for its lack of any kind of political overtones, which I certainly didn't have an issue with. The one other thing that I found really strange about the disc is at the beginning, a little warning message comes up that tells you, please note this film reflects historical attitudes which audiences may find outdated or offensive, which is weird in itself too. And I kind of did a little bit more deep diving. 3 different menu options on the disc depending on which country you're viewing it in. So there's a French, German and United Kingdom option on the disc. And this warning only comes up for the United Kingdom. So I suspect this has been stipulated by the BBFC, which ironically, the BBFC themselves I found outdated and offensive with their constant need to plaster everything with BBFC certificates. I think at this point in time, physical media is not an enormous marketplace. And those people who are buying the discs generally know what they're buying. And I think there's not that many people going into an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s for the first time. It's going to be a lot of nostalgia factor. There's going to be a lot of people who are well aware and big fans of these sort of movies. So it was a bit of a weird thing to kind of see at the beginning of the film. And I think that little special feature, the Dave Sanders one, I found really strange. And I think to my friends over at Studio Canal, if you're watching this, I would implore you to take a little look at the work being done by Vinegar Syndrome, who put out movies that are arguably infinitely lower quality as films. The Tiger Claws series of films are pretty awful, but they celebrate them. Really, you can tell that they absolutely love the films, as flawed and as bad as they are. And I think if you're putting out a premium release of something, which in the case of the Steelbook, it's not a cheap item, then I think it's well worth celebrating the product rather than almost apologising for it, which I kind of felt that the Dave Sanders special features seemed to kind of be doing. It was like, yeah, this movie sucks, but what do you do? I didn't think it sucked at all. I thought that the movie held up really well. Performances all round are pretty good. Robert Davi is always really watchable. Him playing the villainous Max is pretty good fun to watch. Schwartzy is Schwartzy, and if you buy our Schwarzenegger movie from this era, you kind of know what you're getting. And the other big treat for me was Catherine Harold, who's playing Monique, the gangster's mall. She was really good, really entertaining, kind of held her own, and I think the relationship between the two of them doesn't maybe go the way you expect it's going to go, but it was really engaging to watch. So I think for me it was just a joy to revisit the film. I'm very, very grateful to Studio Canal for sorting me out with a review copy. Like I say, it comes out on the 24th of October. I will leave links down below for you to track this down through the usual suspects, through Amazon or through Zavvi if you are interested in the limited edition Steelbook. Thank you again to all those who've already signed up to my Patreon. It's been running for just over a week now, and I already have 8 people signed up, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And one of the stipulations of the Patreon is if you sign up, you get a thank you at the end of these videos. So my eternal thanks go out to Kevin Smith, to Johnny Wheats, to Dustin Lewis, to Owen Jones, to Carlos, to Asian Cinema Guy, to Matteo Miskic, and to the Big Movie Freak for all signing up already. Again, link down below to my Patreon for anybody who's interested to check that out, and loads more content in the works just now to go up both here on the YouTube page and also over on the Patreon. Next big thing up here is going to be Disc 3 in the Shawscope Volume 2 set, and that'll probably be the next upload in a couple of days. Thank you so much for watching this. I've been the Fanatical Dragon. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.